So this right here is called a tenaculum. It is inserted into the vagina and then used to gently grasp the cervix. And if you're looking at the ends of those thinking that should not be...
I'm a practicing gynecology doctor. I have used this tool. But here's exactly when we use it and when we don't. So firstly, I should say I can probably count on one hand the number of times I've used one of these in my 11 years of practice in the hospital. So yes, a tenaculum is one of our instruments, and it is sometimes used mainly during procedures, not just routine examinations, like if we're fitting a coil or we're doing cervical biopsies. And the idea is that it does steady the cervix so we can straighten the cervical canal and reduce the risk of us pushing with our instruments at the wrong angle, which could cause a perforation, a hole in the uterus. However, I would also say that recently there's been a move away from using tools like this unless they're absolutely necessary, especially if your patient is awake, but even when they're asleep, because they can be traumatic, they can also cause bleeding. So when do we actually use a tenaculum? Well, we mostly use it for procedures, as I say, like when we're fitting a coil or taking a biopsy from the cervix or the womb. Now, your uterus is largely a mobile or a floating organ. It's suspended by ligaments, but it does move around a lot. So if we're applying a small amount of traction at the cervix, it helps to stabilize the womb and keep the instruments that we used on the safest line. So using one of these sounds quite intense, but not everyone needs one. If you're worried about pain, for example, say so before we start. Just ask them what instruments they're going to be using on your cervix. And consent is always an ongoing process, so the doctor or the nurse should explain what they're doing and each step before they do it. So there are alternatives. We've got softer, atraumatic graspers. We can also proceed without a tenaculum if we've got a good view and a good angle. Or sometimes we actually gently dilate, open up the cervix to allow us to insert the coil first, rather than needing to hold it and then ram something through the cervix. For pain relief, you can have options like ibuprofen, which you can take before if it's suitable for you, or local anesthetic to the cervix. Sometimes we might use a smaller speculum. We might take things at a slower pace and pause or stop if you need it. And honestly, I hate when people describe any procedures to the cervix as a little pinch. Because yeah, some people do only feel a little bit of pressure with an instrument like this, but others feel intense pain. So you should be told what to expect, and you should be offered options, and you can always ask us to stop at any point. So tenaculums can make procedures safer and quicker, but they're not always necessary. So let me know what you feel if you've ever seen one of these instruments used.